began as a simple dinner plan on a breezy Friday night. Bernadette Mathis, a 65-year-old court reporter who lived on South Padre Island, took a stool at the bar inside Liam's steakhouse and ordered something easy while she waited for her new friend. They had met a week earlier at that same bar, two out-of-towners in spirit, trading stories that stretched past last call. They laughed, they drifted to the condo hot tub in Bernadette's complex, and when the hour grew late, the woman crashed in the guest room. It felt like a happy accident, the kind of casual friendship beach towns are built to create. As a few minutes turned to more, Bernadette asked the bartender if anyone had seen Donna. Heads shook. A server remembered the woman's face, then said something that tightened the air. Donna would not be coming. She was not who she had said she was, and the reason would chill Bernadette to the bone. She had brushed against a killer, close enough to say goodnight, close enough to offer a spare bed. This is Fractured Files, a story about trust, greed, and the woman who could steal not only your money or your name, but your life. Pamela Hutchinson had no reason to expect anything other than sunshine in the spring of 2018. 59 and recently divorced after 2 decades of marriage, she was settling into a new life that suited her. She was a classic people person who could tilt any awkward silence into easy conversation. Friends described a high-energy spirit, kind to a fault, quick to help and quick to laugh. Professionally, she had done well in car sales back in Virginia Beach, a field where rapport is oxygen, and she never ran short. After the divorce, Pam moved to Bradenton, Florida. The Gulf drew her in. Boats moved across her social feed like punctuation. She tried new restaurants, new holiday traditions, and anything that kept her near the water. She found a condo she liked and made an offer at the end of March. Life looked open and bright. On April 3rd, she drove south to Fort Myers for what was supposed to be a brief stay. It wasn't exactly a vacation, more a trip to comfort a grieving friend, but Pam knew the area and decided to make the most of it. A friend suggested Marina Village at Snug Harbor, a timeshare resort perched right on Fort Myers Beach. She checked into Unit 404 a little before 3:45 p.m., chatted with the manager, paid by card, then returned to the parking lot to haul a few things upstairs. The room faced the marina. Sunsets there tend to turn the sky into copper. Pam took it all in and posted about the view. She joked that she might drive home aboard one of the yachts below her balcony. She was enjoying herself enough that, on April 6th, she phoned the desk to extend her stay through the weekend. That call would later matter. On April 9th, just after dinner hour, Lori Russell, the resort manager, responded to a maintenance report about a possible leak. She made her way from unit to unit, listening for the telltale hiss of water where it shouldn't be. At the door of room 404, she paused. There was a smell. It wasn't plumbing. Her gut told her to slow down. She stepped back into the hall and asked 2 male guests to accompany her. Together, they crossed the threshold. They found the body in the bathroom. The victim lay on her right side. A towel had been placed over her torso. Blood spread across the tile and pooled around a pink camouflage baseball cap nearby. The scene was quiet, too quiet for anything other than a deliberate act. Investigators arrived and began their methodical work. Identity came fast. The room was registered to Pamela Hutchinson. The woman on the bathroom floor matched her age and description. Examining the scene, detectives noted details that later felt like a checklist of staging. The thermostat was dialed down to 61 degrees. Towels had been stuffed under the bathroom door. Pam's toothbrush rested in the sink, as if she had been interrupted mid-routine. There were no signs of forced entry, no splintered door or pried window. A pillow on the body showed a hole and singe marks. The implications seemed clear. A firearm had been fired through the pillow to dampen the sound. An autopsy would recover a .22 caliber bullet. There were no defensive injuries. Pam had likely been caught unawares. Her purse had been rummaged through. Cash was missing, along with her identification. Jewelry she had been wearing in the check-in footage was gone. Credit cards were nowhere in the room. Robbery would be an obvious motive, but nothing else about the room looked ransacked. Whoever had been inside acted with purpose and with time to think. When police pulled the resort's surveillance footage, a pattern developed. On April 4th, the day after she arrived, Pam appeared in the lobby talking with a gray-blonde woman around her age. The two stepped into the elevator and rode up together. The next night, Pam left her room and walked to a nearby restaurant, the Smoke and Oyster Brewery. Cameras there showed her taking a bar seat, waiting. She wore that pink camo hat. A few minutes later, the same gray-blonde woman slipped onto the stool beside her. The two ate, talked, paid, and by a little after 7:35 p.m., walked back toward the resort. Resort cameras picked up the pair entering room 404. And around 8:34, the woman exited alone. She stood on the hallway balcony for about 15 minutes, hands occasionally on the rail, looking distressed to anyone who cared to read posture as language. Detectives had the same reaction watching the footage. Whether she was panicking or steeling herself, no one could say. A little before 9, she left by elevator. At 10:30 p.m., she returned with a plastic grocery bag, went into the room and stayed. Cameras recorded her departure at 6:09 a.m. on April 6th. Then she began shuttling items from room 404 to the parking lot. Suitcases, bags, more than one trip. She loaded things into the white Acura Pam had driven to the resort. Just before 8:30 a.m., the gray-blonde woman made the last run, placed what looked like personal items on the passenger seat, and got in behind the wheel. The desk log showed a call from room 404 asking to extend the stay, timed moments before she stepped into the hall for the final time. No one saw Pam on camera after she and the woman returned from dinner on April 5th. Detectives went back to the earlier footage and watched the 15 minutes the woman spent on the balcony, lingering between action and aftermath. They considered the chill in the thermostat and the towels beneath the bathroom door, that call to the desk to push the checkout date forward, the ambush posture inside the bathroom. Their working theory shifted. The murder likely happened overnight during that long window when the woman was inside the room and no one else entered. With a face but no name, investigators turned to the one detail that looked like a breadcrumb left by mistake. That woman had not arrived at the resort on foot. Earlier footage showed her driving a white Cadillac Escalade. After she stole Pam's Acura, she returned to the Escalade and moved it. Then she left the property on foot. Police broadcast to be on the lookout. Within a day, the Escalade was found at a park roughly a mile from Marina Village. When officers ran the plates, the case widened by 1,600 miles in an instant. 2 weeks earlier, on March 23, 2018, deputies in Dodge County, Minnesota, had responded to a welfare check at a rural address outside the town of Blooming Prairie. Friends and relatives hadn't seen 54-year-old Dave Reiss for several days. The house was quiet. Lights inside were odd. When officers circled the property and peered through a window into a bathroom, they saw a man on the floor. Towels partially covered him. A medical examiner would conclude that he had been dead for several days. The cause of death was 2 gunshot wounds from a .22 caliber handgun. The news rattled Blooming Prairie. Towns that size do not expect homicides. People knew Dave and his wife, Lois. They had 3 children and 5 grandchildren. Lois ran a daycare from their home. Dave ran a wax worm farm out of a separate building on the property, supplying bait to the region's anglers. He was a Navy veteran and a regular at the local servicemen's club, where he and Lois often ate dinner. He hired friends, hired local kids who needed work, and offered second chances because he believed in them. Folks described him as Summer Santa cheerful, generous, easy to be around. If a pool table needed a player, he stepped up. Investigators struggled to find Lois. There were fears that she might be a victim, but those fears collapsed under the weight of new information. Employees at the farm had been told on March 12th that Dave felt sick and would be in bed. That story stretched into the week. By Friday, it still sounded like a script, word for word. Employees noticed something else. Dave usually dictated his texts. He spoke them. Punctuation be damned. Suddenly, his messages were neatly typed, with commas and periods in all the right places. Before anyone could challenge the story, Lois said she had taken Dave to a doctor, and he had been given the green light to go to Illinois for a fishing tournament he had been excited about. The next time a staffer saw movement at the Reiss residence, it was Lois behind the wheel of Dave's white Cadillac Escalade. It was March 22nd. She was alone. Deputies learned more as they worked. Lois had a serious gambling problem. Over years, she had spent an inheritance of about $500,000. When that money was gone, she drained accounts that were meant for large family purchases. In 2016, she took more than $100,000 from her own sister while acting as legal guardian and conservator, a role she had obtained following a mental health crisis her sister suffered. A trail led to Diamond Joe Casino across the Minnesota border into Iowa, a place where Lois was well known. Surveillance confirmed she had been there on the night deputies discovered Dave. A convenience store clerk remembered her too. She had stopped for a sandwich and asked whether Interstate 35 was the best way to head south. Before leaving the area, she cashed 3 checks totaling $11,000, drawn from Dave's business. The Minnesota case looked like a man killed in his home and a spouse on the move. The Florida case looked like a tourist murdered in a resort and a gray-blonde stranger disappearing with the victim's car. When Fort Myers detectives asked about the Cadillac Escalade and learned it was connected to Dave Reiss, the path became a straight line. Investigators compared faces, then compared timelines and habits. The gray-blonde woman became a name, Lois Reiss. In Fort Myers, records from Pam's bank painted the motive with a highlighter. On April 6th, just hours after Pam was killed, withdrawals of $5,000 hit the ledger at a Wells Fargo branch. Later that day, a hotel in Ocala accepted Pam's card for payment, rewarded the stay to Pam's member profile, and likely never imagined the name on the folio was already a police report. Camera images along the route showed a woman wearing Pam's clothes, sunglasses, and that pink camouflage hat. The Acura became a tracker of its own. Sightings dotted a map from Florida into Alabama, then Louisiana. In Louisiana, Lois stopped at another casino and, with galling irony, won about $1,500 at the slots. By then, the news had broken nationwide. People who had chatted with Lois while she used the name Donna began to call in tips. The case turned back toward the place where our opening vignette began, South Padre Island. On April 19th, 6 weeks after Dave's body was found and 10 days after Pam's was discovered, a restaurant manager recognized a face from the news and called police. Officers entered the Sea Ranch bar, surrounded a gray-blonde woman who was chatting as if she were any other regular, and placed her under arrest. She did not resist. She showed no emotion. The contrast between her calm exterior and what she had done in the prior weeks stunned those who watched her stand, turn, and offer her wrists. A search of her motel room in South Padre recovered numerous items that had belonged to Pam: jewelry, identification, clothing, car keys. Police also found 2 handguns, including a .22 caliber pistol believed to be the weapon used in both murders. The South Padre discovery connected back to Bernadette's brush at the bar. Investigators believe that while on the run, Lois befriended multiple women around her age, particularly those traveling alone. She adopted an easy rhythm that looked like companionship and sounded like invitation. In Fort Myers, it appears she targeted Pam because they shared a similar build and could be mistaken at a glance. With Pam's ID, credit cards, and points accounts, Lois could move through hotels and across state lines as someone else. Near the border, investigators suspected she was looking for someone with a passport. The plan may have been to slip into Mexico. Thankfully, the call from South Padre ended it. From there, the legal path moved quickly. In separate proceedings held in 2019 and 2020, Lois Reiss pleaded guilty to the murders of Pam Hutchinson and Dave Reiss. Judges imposed life sentences in each case. She remains incarcerated in Minnesota. A measured account of the evidence tells a story of calculation. In Minnesota, employees receive typed texts when they expected run-on dictation. Days pass. Towels appear in a bathroom. A body is found. In Florida, a timeshare room is chilled. Towels are wedged at a door to hold back smell. A pillow is used to mute a gunshot. A call is placed to the front desk to add days to a stay. Jewelry is removed. Cards and cash are taken. A friend is slipped into a stranger's identity. Cameras record trips to and from a parked car at daybreak. The logic of those acts does not scream panic. It sketches planning. It shows someone who understood how hotel desks work, how thermostats slow odor, how disguise can be a matter of a hat and a pair of sunglasses, and the confidence to look like you belong. Yet there were also notes of chaos, the balcony pacing, the casino orbit that never stopped, even while wanted posters multiplied, the way she spoke easily with people who could have become her next targets. Those contradictions nag at anyone who reads this case from start to finish. The question of why lingers. What turned a grandmotherly figure with deep community ties into a predator who crossed half the country in a stolen Acura? What pressure cracked? And when? 2 years before the murders, she vanished for 3 days, prompting a missing person report, only to return and say she had been in Minneapolis visiting a friend. A year earlier, she overdosed on pain pills and survived. A pattern does not always predict a catastrophe, but it can be a map of the road someone is traveling. There are lines here that were visible long before blood stained a bathroom floor. There is also the simpler lesson, the one that stretches across so many true crime files. We move through public places believing in surface impressions. We greet the person who smiles back. We extend small kindnesses to strangers because that is how society works. If you found this case as gripping as we did, and you want more careful, step-by-step examinations of difficult stories, you're in the right place. This is Fractured Files, where we follow the evidence and nothing else. If you want to support the work, tap subscribe, like the video, and ring the bell so you do not miss the next investigation. Stay safe out there.